My name is Hilton and welcome back to my channel. So Mercedes has redesigned the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT 4-door coupe. And it is quite interesting, but very performance oriented. So let's talk about it. Okay, so let's talk styling, and I honestly think we're going to start with the back of the car because that's what's more interesting to me at least. So the rear end has this big blacked out section, and it reminds me almost of a McLaren with how they black out the back ends of their vehicles, or at least like the P1. And then the rear end also has the Mercedes logo in the taillights, which is very interesting. And I will say I really like how they did something unique. However, the black plastic that is there looks really cheap. It looks really cheap. And then the Mercedes logo is also in the headlights, which is not something I dislike. A lot of people were like making fun of them for that and clowning them online, comparing them to other luxury brands. I think Mercedes with the three spokes is actually something they could pull off. It's not that crazy of a concept to put in the headlights. I didn't think it looked that bad. But moving to the front end, Bembley said in his video that it looked like a bunch of cars meshed together. And I think that's honestly the best way to describe it. The front end lacks structure, and it's a weak design. Personally, I don't hate it that bad. It's not that terrible. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's certainly not terrible. I wouldn't even consider it really that bad. Maybe I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but obviously public opinion has decided that this vehicle is the worst thing to ever hit the showroom floor. I will say this, however, props to Mercedes for doing something different. As much as people complain about cars looking the same these days, which they do, the brands make the same thing 20 different times. I love it when a brand does something different. I just do. I'm tired of all the cars looking the same, and this car is the inverse to that. And why I was saying I'm maybe biased is the press car that everybody was looking at is yellow, and yellow is a soft spot for me. So maybe it has me thinking that the car looks better than it actually does, but I don't know. The more I look at it though, the more I'm fine with it. I don't know, maybe I'm just weird here. I will say the GT concept that this car is based off of makes a lot more sense stylistically. It just looks more structured, looks more solid. Like for instance, the headlights aren't so huge on the concept vehicle. But yeah, this looks like nothing Mercedes has ever produced, so I'm impressed in that prospect. I honestly feel like what's making me not hate this car as much as other people, and maybe even like it, is the glitz and the glamour of it all. How surreal the reveal was, for instance. I enjoy when brands, especially huge brands and luxury brands like Mercedes, decide to give a damn about sedans. And not just give a damn, but do something crazy like the reveal was for this car. It just felt so surreal, and it kind of makes you feel like the car world is still alive, if that makes sense. I didn't even think the AMG GT 4-door coupe was gonna get a next generation, let alone all of this. So I'm still happy in the midst of all the negativity. I just love cars, and I love sedans, and I love Mercedes for taking risk and being bold. I'm also happy that we have another competitor for the Taycan and the RS e-tron GT, because the EQS and the EQE just weren't it. And I feel like this car is actually better than those. Now moving on to the interior, I like how they did it, even though I definitely do miss dashboards. I don't know how I'm feeling yet about just replacing the dashboard with screens yet. That's a little forward. If you missed my short on the new CLA, that's crazy. This isn't as bad as that because this actually manages to be designed a little bit, but that one is just crazy. And here's the thing, I don't even know if I actually care about the screens conversation anymore in cars, because if people didn't want them, they wouldn't buy them. Having a bunch of screens in cars is obviously not a deal breaker for people anymore. If people were actually not buying cars because there's too many screens, then that'd be different. You know, brands would adapt, they would listen because money talks. But what's happening is people are still buying the cars. I think as car enthusiasts and people who care about design, we also need to realize that when the average person gets into a car who just wants the newest thing and they see a bunch of screens, for them it's like, take my money. So I don't know what else to say about that. To be honest, like I've said before, screens don't really become a problem for me until they diminish design and quality, which I feel like in this case isn't that bad, only because I like how the screens are designed. I also enjoy what they did with the moonroofs this time. It's quite beautiful with the lights in the moonroof and the AMG logo. Also, this is a hatchback, so it's practical, and it's just cool that we still have some liftback sedans. More interesting things on the interior though, so we have fake engine sounds, fake V8 sounds in the AMG GT 4-door coupe that are meant to mimic all of Mercedes' past V8s. And what they've actually done is just record a bunch of V8 sounds from all of their V8s and then mesh it together, and I guess probably use AI to make it sound realistic, because listening to the videos, which I'll probably insert here, it definitely sounds realistic. I still think that, the fake engine sounds in EVs are kind of crazy. Like, I would rather have it just be silent because it's an EV, just be proud it's an EV. However, if it's gonna make more people want to buy EVs, and I guess I'm fine with it. I guess some people feel a little bit better when they feel like they're not missing out on the passion of a gas engine, but I don't think that's where your buyers are really coming from. But yeah, the vibrations in the seats are just crazy. Mercedes is really going forward with this whole replicating gas engines thing. My thing right now is, y'all really didn't need to do all that. If somebody really wanted a Mercedes V8 or just a Mercedes gas engine, they could just get one right now. We're not really in the place where there was a need to do that yet, if ever there will be. Here's where there's a huge problem though. This is a direct quote from a guy who's presenting the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT Coupe.
Ola mentioned earlier that he personally tested that car. And I hope he doesn't mind if I share a little bit what he said when he first got out. He said, "This is the best V8 we have ever built." Okay, Ola might be a little bit biased here. That's why we asked many more people.
Okay, so that's just disrespectful to the engineers of those real V8s. And here's my thing. You can put engine sounds in an EV while still respecting the history and the legacy of said sounds and of said engines. It's disrespectful and a slap in the face to the decades and decades of engineering and human creation that went into building those engines, even if times are calling for us to leave it behind now. That was just a crazy thing to say, considering the optics of putting those sounds in the car in the first place. With all of that being said, let's talk about performance, because that's really where this car is going to shine. So it has 1200 horsepower, and it somehow manages to have 440 miles of range with a 0 to 60 of 2.4 seconds, which means it's, I think, slightly behind the Porsche Taycan Wozniak. What's cool is they've done so many things to make this car still fun to drive. So first of all, the batteries use synthetic oil cooling to cool the batteries, and they're derived from Mercedes F1 technology, which is really cool. So it can drive faster and do performance stuff longer than most EVs. Then this has an active venturi, something like that, that basically makes airflow under the vehicle faster and makes it more slim when you're driving, which is also mapped around F1 vehicles and developed with their F1 team. Then you have an active rear diffuser, which I believe is the first vehicle production to ever have one. Fact check me on that, but it may just be. So that's really cool. Then you have an active spoiler, of course, because it's an AMG GT 4-door coupe. Yeah, basically everything about the driving experience is customizable on the inside. You can customize with buttons, which is actually nice. Or I should say knobs. It has adjustable wheel slip, agility, corner rotation, and throttle response. So In the press launch for this, you'll see them burning out the car. You see them maybe even drifting. I don't know what else they did, but yes, you can do all of that in this car, which is really cool. It wasn't just press stuff. You can actually do that. So this car is meant to start around $161,000. That was converted from what I heard it was gonna cost in pounds. Car and Driver suspects it's gonna start around $150,000, so just expect to pay a good penny for this car. And that's starting. It may raise a good $100,000 with options. Now, obviously we talked about how this is supposed to be a competitor to the Taycan Wasiak and the Audi RS e-tron GT. Because of the styling, which already has such a negative press around it, I don't think this is going to be the halo car they want it to be, or even really be able to compete with them. That being said, interesting styling has never really stopped Mercedes cars from, or even other brands' cars from selling a reasonable amount. And the AMG GT Coupe, at least to my knowledge, was already not a car that was selling in huge numbers. It was just, you know, a halo car of sorts, which is why, of course, so many people are disappointed that they've ruined it, but most people were never going to have the chance to buy it anyway. I just wonder how it's going to look in comparison to its competitors, because if we were to line that car up with the RS e-tron GT and the Taycan and the Lucid Air, which is amazing, I can't say that that would be what I would choose. But let me know what you guys think. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Let me know what you guys think of this video, and let me know what you think of the new Mercedes-Benz AMG GT Coupe. Don't get mad at me just because I want to be different and like the car. If you hate the car, hate it with pride. All right, bye.